Chapter 31. Modern Myths About Love. Love in the Age of Online Advice. Have you ever found yourself online reading an article on how to guarantee love or 10 tricks to make him adore you? Sound familiar? In the age of online advice, modern myths about relationships pop up at every turn. Maybe you've come across them too. Play hard to get, keep a little mystery, run a power game to stay in control. At first glance, these secrets seem irresistible. Who doesn't want to be perceived as fascinating and irreplaceable? But let's speak openly, heart to heart. Many of these glittering strategies are misleading or even harmful. One of the most widespread myths is the scarcity effect, the advice to make yourself hard to get. The idea is simple. If you seem less available, you become more valuable in the other person's eyes. People want what they can't have, we're told. So some start rationing their attention like a rare prize. They reply to messages with calculated delays, decline a few invitations just for the game, and play at being inaccessible. At first, yes, it can create an illusion of mystery and attraction. You go on a date and leave early on purpose so you don't seem too enthusiastic. Maybe they'll want me more next time, you tell yourself. But in the long run, this strategy is like building an invisible wall between you. Instead of creating closeness, forced scarcity breeds insecurity. The other person will keep wondering whether they're wanted or merely tolerated. And a relationship built on doubt and uncertainty is like a house built on sand. At the first emotional quake, it starts to crumble. Hand in hand with scarcity comes controlled mystery. The advice not to reveal yourself completely, to always keep something hidden so you stay intriguing. Sure, nobody wants to spill their soul on the table on day one. A touch of the unknown can be seductive at the beginning, like the flavors of a delicious dish you discover gradually. But some online tips take this to extremes. Don't tell your partner everything you think. Be enigmatic. Always leave them guessing. The problem: excessive mystery kills intimacy. If even after many months you still don't dare to be yourself, to share what you truly feel, the relationship remains shallow. It's like a dance where you always keep your distance, lovely from the outside, but you never feel the warmth of a real embrace. In trying to seem interesting and impenetrable, you risk leaving the other person outside, fumbling along the walls you've built around yourself. Another popular concept borrowed from social psychology is the IKEA effect. The idea that personal investment creates attachment. The name comes from the famous furniture you assemble yourself. After you've spent 3 hours screwing together a table, it feels dearer to you than if it had arrived pre-assembled. Applied to love, the myth goes like this: the more you work on a relationship, the more you'll value it. If they have to work to win you over, or if you work to change the other person, you'll end up appreciating each other more, right? Unfortunately, love isn't built like a kitchen cabinet. Yes, it's wonderful to invest time and effort together, but that effort has to be mutual and healthy. When only one person is always doing the work, or when effort becomes a goal in itself. I have to endure a bit more, fix a bit more, not quit because I've already invested so much. We're no longer talking about authentic love, but a false attachment. You end up confusing love with the stubborn refusal to waste your work. It's as if you keep watering a flower that's already wilted, simply because you planted it. Sometimes we invest so much in a flawed relationship that we stop seeing reality. What should keep two people together is genuine affection, not just the time and energy already spent. Now look at the power game seduction techniques circulating everywhere online. Here things get even murkier. Some advice practically teaches you how to manipulate someone emotionally, even if it doesn't use those exact words. Take intermittent reinforcement. It sounds technical, but you've seen it in practice. Today they show affection and shower you with compliments. Tomorrow they're cold or disappear, and then they return, tender again. This unpredictable alternation scrambles your emotions, but paradoxically makes you crave their approval and love even more. Just like a game of chance where you never know if you'll win. Some believe that by doing this you keep the other person on the hook and make them dependent on your attention. In the same category is the sad phenomenon of ghosting, when someone simply vanishes from communication without explanation, like a phantom, only to reappear later as if nothing had happened. You'd think no one would recommend such a thing, but incredibly, you can even find experts online who say that if you withdraw suddenly and leave the other person in the dark, you'll spark their interest and increase your allure. Seriously? Maybe in the moment you create drama and suspense, but every act of ghosting cuts deep and eats away at the foundation of trust, and without trust no relationship can survive. Another buzzword is love bombing. When someone overwhelms you at the beginning with intense declarations, grand romantic gestures, with "you're everything I've ever wanted" after only a few weeks. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? You feel like the protagonist of an ideal love story placed on a glittering pedestal. But what often happens afterward? That bombardment of love can't be sustained in the long term because it wasn't entirely real. It was a rapid courtship strategy. And when the unnatural enthusiasm fades, a painful crash follows. The person who exalted you suddenly starts criticizing you or pulling away. Love bombing is like fireworks, dazzling at first, leaving only smoke and darkness behind if it isn't backed by real, steady feelings. And finally, one of the most toxic games is gaslighting. The term comes from the title of an old play in which a husband manipulates his wife into doubting her own sanity. In modern relationships, gaslighting appears when a partner distorts reality so that the other ends up doubting themselves. You may have heard lines like, "You're too sensitive, you're imagining things, I never said that, this is your fault." When someone uses such lines constantly, they're effectively blinding you to the light of your own truth. It's as if you're walking down a road and the person next to you keeps telling you that what you see with your own eyes isn't real. Eventually, you stop trusting your own perception. Gaslighting is profoundly damaging. It destroys self-respect and the victim's ability to distinguish what's true from what's being planted in their mind. Let's not kid ourselves. None of this has any place in authentic love. Now imagine all these strategies bundled into a single relationship. Although they seem different, they have one thing in common. They push people apart instead of bringing them closer. Yes, a touch of mystery or a hint of challenge can light a spark at the beginning. Power games can create the illusion of control and irresistible charm, but a flame lit that way burns fast and fills the room with choking smoke. The price of these games, true intimacy. When you're more focused on applying tactics than on sincerely listening to your partner, there's no room for vulnerability and trust. And without vulnerability and trust, love stays on the surface. Like a lake that looks beautiful from above, but is cold and deep below the waterline, where no one can see the bottom. Relationships built on these modern myths may seem thrilling at first, like a wild party where you feel intensely alive, but at the end of the night you wake up alone, tired and confused. Often, such couples end up in toxic dynamics, bitter disappointments, and unsurprisingly breakups or divorces after 2 or 3 years, when all the masks fall and the accumulated wounds come to light. The truth is that love isn't a strategy game or a puzzle where the craftiest wins. And to truly understand how much harm these modern myths can do, let's turn to a story, the story of 2 people who tried, consciously or not, to live their love by following the rules of the internet. So let's step into their lives for a few moments. Jennifer sits on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped in her lap. Michael, leaning against the bedroom doorframe, stares at the floor between them. On the table sits a cup of tea gone cold, a silent witness to the heated conversation that has just taken place. Jennifer moistens her lips and breaks the silence, her voice trembling. "Is that really what you want? To leave for good?" In her eyes, tears glint in the room's half-light. Michael lets out a deep sigh and avoids her gaze. "I don't know what I want," he answers slowly, almost in a whisper. "I just know we can't go on like this." In his left hand, he clutches a key, the key to their apartment, turning it nervously, as if the weight of that small piece of metal could anchor his words. Jennifer rises slowly and takes a few steps toward him. The floor creaks softly under her feet, the sound deafening in the stillness of the room. "We can't keep going because we don't recognize each other anymore, Michael," she says bitterly. 3 years we've been together, and today I feel like there's a stranger standing in front of me." Michael looks up, startled by the firmness in her voice. A sheen of unshed tears gathers at the corners of his eyes. "A stranger?" he repeats, as if to himself. "Jennifer, I was only trying to be the man you need. Not to smother you, not to seem weak to be, how can I put it, worthy of you." The last words catch in his throat like thorns. Jennifer runs a hand through her hair, a reflex of frustration. Worthy of me? Is that how you thought you'd make yourself worthy, by keeping me at a distance? Michael, you've always kept me at arm's length. You left me guessing how you felt, every day. Her voice breaks, but she goes on. Do you know how exhausting it was to live like that? As if I were chasing a shadow, always afraid that if I stopped running for even a moment, I'd lose you. Michael lowers his head. I thought you liked there to be a bit of mystery, he says, attempting a wan smile that vanishes at once. I read everywhere that women don't like men who are too predictable, that I should keep some measure of control. Jennifer shakes her head, incredulous. Control? You think that was it? You think I enjoyed never knowing whether you were happy or angry, whether you loved me or doubted us? You hid behind a wall and I kept running into it over and over. She steps forward and takes his hand, prying open the fist clenched around the key. His palm is cold, his fingers tremble. Michael, we've been hurting each other for so long without realizing it. You say you didn't want to smother me, but you actually left me starved for you. You left me parched for a single honest word. You built a kind of mask, the independent, mysterious man, and behind it you were losing yourself, while I kept slamming into a void. Michael squeezes his eyes shut. 2 heavy tears slide down his cheeks. I had no idea. I thought that if I didn't show you all my weaknesses, you'd look at me with more admiration, that you wouldn't get bored with me. Jennifer sighs and lets go of his hand, taking a step back. Admiration. Do you know what I actually admired most about you? Those rare moments when you dropped the act and showed me who you really are. Like that day you told me about your father, how he left when you were little, and how much it hurt you. Do you remember? In that moment I felt I truly saw you, and I felt that I loved you, Michael. Not the perfect man you were trying to play, but the vulnerable man underneath it all. Michael remembers. How could he forget? They were sitting on the floor of a living room crowded with boxes. They had just moved in together. It was drizzling outside. He had told her in a low voice about his childhood, about the pain of loss, and Jennifer had listened with tears in her eyes and hugged him so tightly. It was the first time he felt safe with her, the first time his guard had come down. So then why? Why did I ruin everything? Michael murmurs, coming back to the present and meeting her gaze. Why aren't we like that anymore, Jen? Where did we lose ourselves? A genuine desperation colors his voice. Jennifer blinks, and a tear slides down her cheek. Because we let ourselves be fooled, she says simply, by our fears, by other people's ideas about what love is supposed to be. She runs a hand over her face and takes a deep breath, gathering her courage. You know, I made a lot of mistakes too. Remember at the beginning of our relationship when I made you wait a whole month before I agreed to make it official? Michael shakes his head, confused, because you wanted to be sure. No. Jennifer bites her lip, embarrassed, because I was afraid I'd look desperate if I said yes too quickly. I thought that if I played hard to get, you'd value me more. Michael wipes his cheeks with the back of his hand. He remembers those evenings when he would text her and wait hours for her reply. How his heart would race every time her name finally lit up his screen. Back then it felt thrilling, a challenge. Now he understands. Jen, you acted like you didn't care that much about me. A lot of the time I felt insecure. But I thought that's just how you were. Jennifer folds her hands as if in a silent plea. That's how I was told to be. My friends, the internet, everyone said don't reply right away, make him chase you. Otherwise he'll lose interest. And you know what I managed to do? Hurt you and hurt myself. Because I was insecure too, even though I pretended to be indifferent. Michael takes 2 steps toward her and for the first time that evening looks straight at her, studying her face. Jennifer, if we both knew in our hearts it wasn't right, why didn't we stop? Why did we keep playing these games with each other? Jennifer shrugs helplessly. Maybe because it felt easier than being honest. It's scary to be honest and risk getting hurt. So we listened to voices that promised there were tricks to keep from getting hurt. Her green eyes search for comfort in his. And yet, I still suffered. In fact, it was worse. A heavy silence settles, broken only by the ticking of the wall clock, like a mechanical heart measuring the moments left. Michael finally sets the key on the table and lifts his hands, hesitating before he touches her shoulders. He strokes her gently, like a leaf about to fall. I'm sorry, he says hoarsely. Jennifer closes her eyes at his touch, and tears stream down. I am too. I'm sorry too, she whispers. I loved you, Michael. I loved you with all my frightened heart, and I think you loved me too, but we didn't know how to love each other in a healthy way. Michael draws her softly toward him and holds her tight. He rests his chin on the crown of her head as their bodies tremble gently with both their sobs. They stay pressed together like 2 castaways clinging to the last floating plank. For a moment they seem themselves again. No fear, no games, just 2 people who could have been happy if they had laid down their armor in time. After a few minutes, Jennifer lifts her gaze. Her eyes meet Michael's red and wet. What do we do now? She asks softly. In that question lies the full weight of the decision they've both avoided for so long. Michael bites his lower lip. He wants to say, we'll stay together and fix everything. He wants to believe it's possible. But he sees the truth too, the deep cracks between them, the exhaustion, the love squandered on petty ego games. He touches her cheek, wiping away a tear with his thumb. Now I'm letting you go, he says bitterly, barely keeping his voice steady. Jennifer draws a ragged breath, as if his words had struck her. She rests her forehead on his chest for the last time, listening to his heart thudding wildly. I don't want to go, she whispers, clutching the fabric of his shirt in her fists. Neither do I, Michael answers, and the pain in his voice fills the room. They slowly pull apart. Jennifer wipes her eyes and straightens up, trying to gather her shredded dignity. Michael takes the key from the table and places it in her palm, closing her fingers around it. The apartment is yours. I'll stay at Chris's for a while. Jennifer nods slowly. She knows this is the end of their scene. She watches Michael take his jacket from the chair, sees him hesitate for a second when both of them hope the other will say, stay a little longer, then step toward the door. His hand touches the cold handle. Before he turns it, Michael looks back at Jennifer one last time. He will always remember how she looked tonight. Tousled chestnut hair, damp cheeks, green eyes full of regret and unfulfilled love. Take care of yourself, he says softly, pouring into those words all the affection he hadn't known how to show in time. Jennifer bites her lip to keep from breaking down again and manages to murmur. You too. Take care, Michael. The door opens, letting in for a moment the distant hum of traffic outside and the cold night air. Michael steps over the threshold, and with a sharp click, the door closes behind him. Jennifer stands motionless in the middle of the empty room. For the first time in a long while, the quiet isn't filled with unspoken reproaches or broken hopes. It's a mute, final kind of silence. She opens her palm and looks at the key. It gleams faintly in the lamplight, warm from their hands. It's the last piece of their shared story she still holds. She clutches it to her chest, sinks slowly to the floor, and sobs, finally letting all the pain surface. That night, Jennifer feels their shared dreams scatter like leaves carried off by the cold wind of reality. Jennifer and Michael's story is, unfortunately, one we encounter more and more often these days. Two people who truly loved each other ended up parting not for lack of feeling, but because of learned behaviors fueled by modern myths about love. Let's take a closer look at what happened between them through the lens of the concepts discussed in the theoretical section. Scarcity effect, playing hard to get. At the beginning of the relationship, Jennifer admitted she deliberately tried to seem more distant and unattainable. She postponed replying to messages, hesitated to say yes right away, believing that Michael would value her more. This is precisely the scarcity myth at work. What was the effect? Instead of seeing her as more valuable, Michael felt confused and insecure. Yes, in the moment it may have piqued his curiosity and made him pursue her more insistently, just as someone waiting for a message grows increasingly impatient. But over time, this dynamic planted seeds of doubt in Michael. Does she really care about me? Or is she just playing games? That uncertainty led him at times to respond in kind, keeping his distance. Instead of drawing closer in good faith, the hard-to-get dance kept them apart precisely when they needed to move toward each other and build trust. Controlled mystery, not fully revealing yourself. Michael, for his part, was influenced by the idea that he should always be a bit enigmatic, never too emotionally available. He says he tried not to seem weak or too predictable, afraid Jennifer would get bored of him, so he hid his vulnerabilities behind a stoic mask. The result? Jennifer felt shut out, unable to truly know him. In place of intimacy which grows from mutual knowing and honesty, a fog of mystery settled between them. Michael thought he was doing the right thing, maintaining control and an air of intrigue, but each unshared secret was like a brick in an ever-taller wall between them. The mystery that was supposed to make them attractive to each other ended up turning them into strangers. Intermittent reinforcement, the hot and cold game. Their relationship was marked by intense moments, followed by sudden pullbacks. Michael alternated periods when he was affectionate and present with stretches when he grew distant or disappeared emotionally. As Jennifer tells him, "Every day I didn't know if you still loved me or if you'd changed your mind." This hot and cold alternation is the classic pattern of intermittent reinforcement. Like anyone receiving mixed messages, Jennifer grew increasingly anxious and, paradoxically, more eager to win back Michael's affection whenever he withdrew. Like a gambler at a slot machine, who wins from time to time, and precisely for that reason can't stop. Jennifer clung to the beautiful moments, when Michael was tender, as justification for overlooking the bad ones. But the psychological price was high. Each emotional zigzag eroded her trust in the stability of the relationship. Her heart lived on an exhausting roller coaster until it finally gave way. Looking at the story as a whole, we see how each modern myth and every technique pushed Jennifer and Michael farther and farther apart. What was supposed to protect their hearts, according to online promises, ended up hurting them more. In trying not to be vulnerable, they stopped being authentic. In their effort to keep control, they let go of honesty, and, as you'd expect, without honesty and vulnerability, their love had no solid roots. Each clung to their corner of strategies until the chasm between them became insurmountable. Their relationship fell apart after about 3 years, the very period when, more often than not, the truth comes to light. Why 2 or 3 years? Because the early stages of love, infatuation, the initial passion, often last a while, sometimes a few years during that time. Power plays can continue, but not indefinitely. At some point, either one partner can no longer keep up the act, like Jennifer, emotionally exhausted, or the reality of each one's personality shatters the illusion. In their case, after 3 years, the accumulated fatigue and wounds had grown too big to sweep under the rug. The lack of intimacy, fractured communication, and mounting resentment led inevitably to a breakup, even though, in a bitter irony, they still loved each other deep down. The story perfectly reflects the theory. Modern myths about love may seem to work in the short term. They grab attention, spark passion, and offer the illusion of control, but they plant the seeds of a toxic love, not a healthy one. Jennifer and Michael ended up experiencing firsthand the consequences of blindly following those online tips, the loss of trust, the breakdown of intimacy, and ultimately the loss of the relationship. In today's hectic world, full of online gurus who claim to hold the recipe for happiness in love, it's important to remember that love is not a cookbook recipe. You don't add a spoonful of mystery, 2 of scarcity, and 3 of canned compliments to cook up a happy relationship. True love is built on vulnerability and trust. Yes, vulnerability, the word many fear. It means having the courage to say, "Here I am. This is who I really am, flaws, fears, and all my baggage. Will you take me as I am?" And letting the other person lay down their armor as well, assuring them they are safe with you. There's real risk here, I know. When you're vulnerable, you can get hurt. But think about it. Can you enjoy the ocean if you never step out of your safety boat? The most beautiful parts of love arrive hand in hand with risk. When 2 people give themselves permission to be truly present with one another, without calculating every move, without constantly testing the other's feelings, love puts down strong roots. It's like a tree grown in rich soil. The storm may come, the winds of change may blow, but it stands firm because its roots are sunk deep in honesty and mutual acceptance. By contrast, relationships like hothouse flowers, kept alive artificially with games and tricks, won't survive the rainy season. Perhaps online advice seduces us because it promises quick fixes, shortcuts to love. But love isn't a destination you reach by shortcut. It's a long, sometimes winding road that requires patience and ongoing presence. There are no magic formulas that can replace honest dialogue, nor manipulative tactics that can stand in for genuine affection. Yes, for a while you may get what you want, attention, sex, companionship, but you will never get what you truly need, a genuine emotional connection. That is built by working together, not against each other. Think of Jennifer and Michael. If they had had the courage from the very beginning to be honest, to respond to messages as they felt without games, to confess their fears, to offer sincere apologies when they were wrong, their story might have been different. They might still be dancing together instead of having hurt each other. It's a painful but valuable lesson. Love must be lived, not simulated. So, instead of playing with absence to test how much we're missed, we do better to learn to be there for each other, even when it's hard. Instead of overwhelming at the start and then retreating, love consistently even on ordinary days without theatrics. Instead of trying to control the relationship, let yourself be carried by it at times with mutual trust. And above all, if we're confused or unsure, rather than making the other person doubt themselves, even unintentionally, let's communicate and search for the truth together. It's tempting to try the shiny recipes you find online. I know. When you're hurt or insecure, it can seem easier to follow rules to protect yourself. But no counterfeit happiness will satisfy you in the long run. Deep down you long, like all of us, for a love where you feel seen, heard, and accepted exactly as you are. In the age of online advice, the boldest act of rebellion is to love authentically. To say "I love you" when you feel it, without fearing you'll look vulnerable. To say "I'm sorry" when you're wrong, without believing that makes you weak. To show up with your whole self, without feeling the need to play a role. Ultimately, isn't that what we're all searching for? In a world full of myths and illusions, to find someone with whom we can be truly ourselves, loved and safe, exactly as we are.